All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Brain Health for Adults webinar. Today, we have myself, Amanda, the Regional Director, and Mojan, our Assistant Director, here to support you in your goals for healthy aging and just overall cognition and brain health, of course. We did a little bit of introduction already, but I want to move along. We have a lot to cover. Once again, please make sure that you leave yourself on mute, cameras off, and that you ask questions in the chat box. And by the end of this, we will have more time for Q&A, and you will be sent a recording of this presentation as well. Okay. So as we get through this presentation, what are we going to be covering? I want you to all walk away just having a better understanding of the best practices that you can implement to improve your brain and body health as we age, or if you have little ones. I know there were some people who registered asking about their child. I'm totally fine. So what is neuroplasticity? That's all about today's conversation, is how we can change the brain, right? Otherwise, it's kind of a dire situation, right? I also want you to walk away knowing what it takes to trigger the billion+ neurons in your brain. How do you train those connections? And how do you, of course, walk away improving brain health? So hopefully you'll be able to identify at least 2 new ways that you can change today or this week to support your own well-being. Biggest thing is, I want you to remember what you do matters, what you eat matters, what you think matters, okay? A lot kind of wraps around these ideas. We will be talking about 6, 7 different pillars of brain health, but it really does come back down to what you do, what you eat, and how you think that supports, again, your overall brain health and well-being. So we'll start by talking a little bit about who is brain balance, why are we talking about this, some background knowledge about how the brain is developed, neuroplasticity, of course, what is it, how do you improve your aging and your brain as we go through the years, and stress and family life or retirement, whatever it may be. And then if you need more help, how can Brain Balance, our program, support you? And then, of course, Q&A. I want to start with a warm-up activity. I always do this, whether I'm in person or virtual. So I would love to invite everybody to just take one big breath, shake it out a little bit, whether you're standing or sitting. I'm standing right now. If you're sitting, that's totally fine. I would love for you to put one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart. And I want you to do this practice as regularly as you can. Really feel your breath and feel your belly and your chest expand. As you inhale deeply through your nose, I want you to hold it for just a sec and then exhale very slowly through your mouth. If you need to make some nice sounds at the end, feel free to do so. Hopefully you're in the comfort of your own space and you feel safe and secure. But I want everybody to just kind of calm their body and their brains down and really get ready to engage in this webinar, okay? So whenever you're ready, take a deep breath in with your nose and exhale slowly through your mouth. Do this 2 more times. And again, really think about how that belly is expanding or that chest is expanding as you breathe in. And really consciously think about pushing all that air out, deflate that balloon through that mouth. And make sure you do it 1 more time. What I would love for you to do next is to tickle your brain, massage your head a little bit, send those little tingles down your body, all right? Massage that neck a little bit. Give yourself a big squeeze on the arms, all right? If you're wrapped around, give yourself a big hug. Shake your hips a little bit, side to side. Shake out your legs. You can even point your toes as far as you can within what's comfortable for you, remember. And then bring those toes back, pointing towards your knee as much as you can. And make sure you do both sides. We always want to keep that balanced in your body whenever you're stretching or moving. Roll your shoulders out. You can roll backwards or forwards. Again, make sure you do both ways. If you can, go in opposite alternating movements. Try to see which one's easier, all right? You can also stretch back. What I can invite you to do is Hands on your thighs. And as you breathe in, I want you to slide your hands up your thighs to the side of your body. And you want to stretch out that chest. Look into the ceiling as much as you can. And as you're ready to slowly bring it back and slide your hands back down your thigh. And you can try that one more time. If you want a bigger stretch, you can bring your hands up behind your back with your fingers pointing down. And then back to neutral position when you're ready. Okay. So I love doing this activity because it just kind of resets our brain, gets us ready to focus. We're not only moving our body, but we're also triggering a lot of our senses. And that's something we're going to talk a lot about today. Sensory engagement and movement is really key to excite those billion-plus neurons in your brain. So I told you earlier, I want you to know at least one of the ways. I'm going to keep quizzing you today, okay? So sensory engagement and movement. That's really key to trigger and really excite, again, those billion-plus neurons in your brain to eventually build those connections that are so necessary for us to function in, the everyday world, okay? A little bit about me. My name is Amanda. Again, I'm the Regional Director for Brain Balance of Greater San Diego. We have 3 centers here in Carmel Mountain Ranch, Chula Vista, and Encinitas. And my background is actually in education, but I've been in all different realms of education. And as someone mentioned earlier in the chat box, they're just fascinated with the brain, and so am I. And I love what I do because I get to share how we can all improve our health, our well-being, improve education, and really have everyone, whether it's a child, a teenager, a young adult, or a senior, we see it all, and I've worked with all ages. I get to help you actualize the best you, right? Give you that opportunity to meet your potential, essentially, and be your best and feel your best. So I'm excited today to share with you how Brain Balance does that, but also how you can be empowered yourself to make the changes necessary for you to feel your best too, okay? So Brain Balance, what are we? Who are we? We are a holistic brain-based program. We are someone that sees folks who have lots of different challenges and lots of different goals. Focus, attention, emotional regulation, anxiety, stress management. Those are some of the main things that folks come to us for, but really everything from wanting to be a better athlete to musician to wanting to get ahead in their career, wanting to be a better parent or better partner. We see it all because all of us can use some brain balance. All of us can improve, again, how our brain is connecting and processing the world around us, and giving ourselves a little bit more control of how we do that and how we respond to the world too. Our program is backed by research. We have folks like Harvard who support our program in improving focus and attention, especially those with ADHD or ADHD symptoms, how we can improve cognitive skills through Cambridge Brain Sciences, now called Creos Health. We also see, again, a lot of people with different mental health challenges and goals, and the Journal of Mental Health and Clinical Psychology recently published a study showing how, on average, we had a 40 to 60% improvement in mental health with our students, and I can definitely attest to that. So today, a lot of what I'm sharing, if you're wondering about what the research is behind what I'm sharing, I'll either have it on the slide, or you can ask me as well if you have additional questions. Don't hesitate, okay? So we're going to dive right in. First, just so you know, there's no sound on this video. I just wanted to give you the visual, okay? So I want to start with the brain. How does the brain develop as soon as, we're in the womb, basically, as a fetus? And then when we're born, there are blasts of sensory input, right, as soon as you're born. And I mentioned we have over 1 billion plus neurons in our brain. And as those neurons get developed by that sensory engagement and through movement and exploring the world around us, we're able to begin to start making connections across the different regions of the brain. If you didn't know, within the first year of life, babies' brains double in size. And no surprise, right? Again, it's very different from being in the comfort of a dark, warm womb to being out in the world. And then within the first 5 years of life, we actually develop about 95% of our brain. So early childhood, and which I did a lot of, early childhood education, I should say, did a lot of in the past, is really key because those first 5 years really determine quite a bit of how we're able to create these foundational hubs, I would say, that allow us again to function in the world. But it doesn't just stop there. Our entire lives, those connections are constantly changing for better or worse, right? And improving ideally as we learn, so that we only utilize what we need to utilize, right? Be efficient. The goal is to be efficient and have a balanced brain to process the world around us and really, get through life, right, without struggling, having any extremes like really severe emotional regulation challenges or severe functioning, difficulty in functioning, whether it's focus or organization. I know quite a few people put that as their goal, is how do you improve their cognition and executive functioning and organization. And so neuroplasticity is really key, right? It starts with those connections. You need to have those interconnections across the different regions of the brain to allow us to process information and then respond, right, as we develop and learn in our young years in school to, to our careers in adulthood, to how we relate to others in our family and in our community. Okay. So neurons, these are brain cells. They each have their own identity and function. The connections, though, really are what's key. So I invite you to make this connection action and just say everything's connected. All right. Everything is connected. Those networks are key to eventually, again, help us respond to the world around us. All right. So what does research tell us? Cambridge University, along with many other articles in recent and previous years, continuously show how, again, the brain connectivity is what's incredibly important. That's what's involved with things like ADHD, cognition, learning, behaviors, and even mental health. So we do see a lot of people who are neurodivergent, diagnoses or not. Again, ADHD, sensory processing challenges. It could be learning challenges like dyslexia. And if you're a kid with these challenges, you grow up to be an adult with these challenges. And that could be some of you today, right? You don't have to keep coping or managing or accept that this is just the way it is. The brain is powerful, and that's what I want to teach you today. The brain is powerful, and you can improve your overall functioning with some of these key pillars that we'll talk about for brain health. Okay, so connections are what's key. And like I said, everything is connected. So what we want is for strong pathways to be built across the brain rather than cope with the weak pathways. When there's one weak pathway, it's going to affect all the pathways. And the way I like to think of it is in the brain, I'll show you my little orange brain here if you can see. There's all these pathways, connections. Think of it like a highway. I like to think of it as green lights and no traffic and everything's smooth sailing. But as you can imagine, in the real world, when you hit traffic, when there's the GPS direction sending you the wrong way, when you accidentally take the scenic route without meaning to, or you get lost, right? It's kind of difficult. It's kind of frustrating. And in the brain, that's kind of what's happening too. So we want to clear out those traffic jams, if you will, and create those stronger pathways and multiple pathways to do the same thing or process the same information. Another example I like to give is if you only knew one direction, I would say, to your home, for instance, if you only knew one way to get home from, say, the grocery store, and there is some kind of road construction or, road closure, you're going to have a hard time getting home, right? But if you know multiple ways, 10 different ways to get home, much more smooth, less stress, and you'll get there sooner than later, right? And so in the brain, I want to teach you how to build lots of different pathways, strong pathways, so that you can be resilient and adapt to the world around you, okay? So in terms of the different challenges and goals that people have, if you look at the tip of the iceberg here, those are some of the, again, reasons that people come to us, right? Or that they are struggling with, including yourselves. Could be challenges with anxiety, memory. I saw a lot of people, right? The organization I talked about, could be communication skills, problem solving, or just in general processing, right? As we get older, we kind of slow down. What I want you to know, though, is to not, or want you to consider, is to not just focus on these behaviors or these symptoms or just that tip of the iceberg. Know that what you're doing or unable to do is a result of a lot more functioning behind the scenes, right? How is your brain processing all the different sensory stimuli, whether it's what you're taking in visually, auditorily, through your ears, what you're feeling? Do you feel your own body, your own self, right? Is your balance? Someone mentioned balance as an area they want to improve. Balance is so foundational to our emotional regulation and building empathy and connecting to those around us, and even core strength, right? What are your gross and fine motor skills like? Core strength is foundational to the processing speed of the brain. So we need all these pieces to be synced up appropriately for us to function at our best. Not perfect, that's not the goal, right? That's not a realistic expectation. When things are aligned, it doesn't mean we're perfect. It just means we're able to, again, adapt and be resilient. And what we like to tell kids is a balanced brain is a teachable brain, right? We want to be able to learn and, continue moving forward in life. So when you have challenges, one thing I forgot to mention earlier is a lot of what I'm sharing with you today is, of course, for educational purposes only. I'm not a licensed clinical physician or nutritionist or therapist, right? So a lot of this is educational. If you have, severe or serious concerns or challenges like this, if you want to talk to your different doctors and providers, challenge them as well to think beyond the symptoms, to really understand how all these pieces are connected, from your gastroenterologist for any gut issues to your, neurologist for your memory challenges. Everything is connected, folks. So they are not necessarily trained to think beyond their scope of work either. But what we now know is that everything is connected. And in terms of as we age, we'll focus a little bit more on cognition. So what is cognition? Let's make sure we're on the same page. Cognition is the mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experience, and the senses. I love this definition from Oxford Dictionary because they include the senses. Remember, how do we trigger the brain? How do we learn? How do we build new connections? Sensory input and movement. So the senses are key. Cognitive functions include things like focus, memory, learning, comprehension, reasoning, language, social skills, orientation even, right? And some of you mentioned executive functioning, and executive functioning is another big umbrella under cognitive functions, and that include things like inhibition and impulse control, how we manage our behaviors and our emotions, how we organize and manage our time, how we are able to motivate ourselves and those around us, and problem solving. So this big umbrella of our actions that need to happen from moment to moment is all based on, again, connections in the brain. It's not just a matter of a skill that you practice. It's these foundational connectivity hopefully happening in the brain that helps you be able to execute these different pieces of functioning, okay? So again, don't just mask the issue or think about the symptoms or the tip of the iceberg. Really think about the root cause of your challenges or the root way to achieve your goals, right? However you want to think of it. When you can improve your brain connectivity, it can lead to improvements in cognitive tasks and executive functioning, all right? So stronger brain connection equals stronger processing skills. We do that again through sensory engagement and movement, all right? It's not as simple as that, of course. There's more to it. I'll talk more about it, but those are foundational. You need to have as much of a multi-sensory, multimodal approach if we are to improve our brain. So neuroplasticity, let's talk about that now. What is it? This is a big word that's been thrown around quite a bit in recent years, and neuroplasticity is basically the brain's ability to process information, right? And physically change, right? We need to build these connections in the brain by physically connecting all those hubs and networks, okay? So how can you adapt? What we say quite a bit in this industry is neurons that fire together wire together. This is by Donald Hebb, who was a neuropsychologist back in 1949. And it's true, right? Neurons that fire together, it means they're wired together. And that's the goal. So I invite you to say this one more time with me. Neurons that fire together, wire together. I'm going to keep trying to encourage you to participate because just listening And watching this presentation is not going to help you learn as much as if you, again, were engaging your various senses, whether you're moving your body, vocalizing this information. So I'm going to keep inviting you and challenge you to participate and engage, even though this is a webinar and not a live presentation. Well, it's live, I guess, but not in-person presentation, okay? So what happens to our brain as we age? There is a few things that you can't help. There really is a reduction in our brain volume. Your brain, by the way, physically stops growing about age 25 or so, but those connections, remember, can continue forever. The idea that you can't teach an old dog new tricks is completely false. That's what this whole presentation is about. But the size, the cells do degrade over time. So the size of our brain does reduce a little bit. There is a decrease in blood flow to the brain. And in that happening, then there is a reduction, I guess, in connections and, brain cells being healthy. And so when that happens, there's going to be natural effects of, maybe reduced memory, language challenges, maybe some processing speed challenges, maybe some decision-making abilities that are not as on your A game as it used to be when you were younger, okay? So I want to ask you now, though, what are some of those risks for cognitive decline? What are some of the things that can happen or just be present? That's your little hint, that can affect your cognition. Let's start with that first. Go ahead and put it in the chat box. Share whatever ideas that you may have. There's a lot of different ways you can be affected with your cognition, but what are your thoughts? What are some ways that your functioning may be reduced, whether it's something you do, something that happens to you, something that just is, that you can't control? Oh, less sleep, absolutely. Sleep we'll talk about later. So sleep is a big piece of how we process and heal the brain throughout the day. I'll give you a little bit more hints as you guys are thinking. Genetics. Genetics are a big piece, right? Genetics are something you can't necessarily control, right? You are born with what you're born with. However, you do have a lot of control in how those genes are expressed. How we take care of our bodies is key. Some other things that can affect your health could be chronic diseases, high blood pressure, heart disease, right? And then things like high cholesterol, your diet, how much you exercise, what you're consuming in terms of smoking or excessive alcohol. Remember, what you think matters, your mental health. It could be different diseases and viruses. Right now, there's a lot of research happening because of COVID, right? Chronic stress is a big one, and lack of relationships, okay? All these pieces can be risks, again, for cognitive decline. But I want to talk about what you can do to improve your brain. So last quiz, how do we strengthen brain connectivity? What are the two things? What are the two things that help you strengthen brain connectivity? Someone said they do puzzles. Yes. I'm going to challenge you to do some other things, but how do we strengthen brain connectivity? What needs to happen? What was I encouraging you to do today as you're listening? Remember, folks, it comes back down to sensory engagement and motor movement, okay? So we need to excite our brain through sensory input by moving our bodies. And whatever we're doing too, there's a few other bits of information that you need to understand. There has to be this perfect balance, maybe not perfect, but a decent balance of enough load and challenge, right? Something that that's not too hard and can't be too easy either. That's really important to literally build new connections in the brain. I tell kids this all the time. You need to struggle, you need to fail to succeed. If things are too easy, your brain literally doesn't grow. So that intensity needs to be at the right balance. You need to do it consistently and have, enough time to practice this activity. Like if you do puzzles, doing one puzzle today and not again until 10 years from now probably is not going to help, right, with that cognition. So there needs to be, again, the intensity, the duration, and the repetition to build that consistency, to build those connections and have it lasting. Okay. Other things though, what are those different pillars of brain health? We'll go into about 6, 7 of them right now. The first one is really, really important. It's move your body, right? Exercise. We've heard this over and over and over again. Exercise is really important. However, the research shows there's specific exercise that's really key if we want to stay, brain fit, all right? Aerobic exercise. That means you feel your heart thump. Raising that heart rate every single day, especially in the morning, can really benefit you. CDC, Centers for Disease Control, has put out their notice of recommending 150 to 180 minutes of moderate intensity or 75 minutes per week of vigorous intensity, in addition to muscle strengthening activities at least 2 times a week. That doesn't mean go get a gym membership, okay? Moderate intensity or even vigorous intensity can happen in your home when you're doing walks. Really incorporate it to your everyday routine is key. Something that seems as simple as vacuuming, right, raises that heart rate. When you're gardening, you're lifting, you're getting up, you're digging, right? When you're doing laundry, moving the loads, folding, all that can raise your heart rate. So essentially, moderate intensity is if you can feel your heart thump a little bit, but I can still have a conversation with you. Vigorous intensity is I'm trying to catch my breath, all right? So depending on where you are physically, just get out there, get moving, even just a few minutes a day. Even just a few minutes a day is really, really key to get that heart rate up and get your brain ready for the day. And the reason why we say do it in the morning, especially rather than the afternoon or night, even though that still helps, is because this type of exercise releases brain-derived neurotrophic factor. That's a big word for saying brain juices, basically, right? It really helps us, again, be clear and focused and ready to move in the day. I did that myself. I didn't have a lot of time, but you can have 2 minutes just to get that heart rate up and move along. There's other research that's also fascinating. In San Diego, if you're from this region, UC San Diego, University of California, San Diego, recently published another study showing how the use of a fitness tracker really helps too. And I've seen that in a lot of other studies. So if you have a smartwatch, something to track your steps, maybe you have an app on your phone, that really is key. And if you think about it, it makes sense. You have that sensory input, right? You have an accountability buddy. You can feel it buzz on your wrist. You can get these alerts. You get this motivation, again, stimulating your various senses to say, hey, get moving and, meet those steps for the day or whatever it is. All right. The other thing is bilateral coordination. Bilateral coordination just means basically cross-body coordination. Could be your upper and lower body, or it could be left to right side of the body. So if you think about something like a jumping jack, that's relatively simple to envision, right? That is not that simple for people who have a hard time with cross-hemispheric communication across the brain. So if you can do things that require you to use left and right side of your body, the better, right? And so if you're normally right-handed, even if you're just using the opposite hand left-handed, that's going to help too. Even though that's not cross-body coordination, you're trying to strengthen those areas of the brain that aren't usually excited, I guess. All right. So move your body. That's really the main key. Okay. Move your body. Start where you're at. I'm not expecting you to just work out all of a sudden, right? If you're usually pretty sedentary, but move your body. Okay. Sometimes you're not in a position to move your body. So move your brain, exercise your brain. We really are keen to novelty. Our brain likes things that are new. It likes to be challenged. And if you're going to be sedentary, the active sedentary behaviors are what's recommended. That includes things like reading, learning new hobbies, like maybe learning a new game, painting, maybe woodworking, whatever it is. Driving is extremely complicated and requires many cognitive skills. So those active sedentary behaviors are still better than the passive sedentary behaviors, which includes things like staring at a TV, watching movies or shows, or scrolling through your phone. Even as adults, we are definitely guilty of this. It's not just kids these days. So exercise your brain, exercise your body. Okay. What we would need to do next is also fuel our body and brains properly. Nutrition is so important, all right? Healthy habits are really key. So what we in our program, Brain Balance, recommend is a low inflammation diet. Really, the research shows having a variety in your diet is key. If you're someone that tends to eat the same things over and over, excite your palate a little bit, right? Switch it up a little, but also think about what your body is sensitive to. So not necessarily allergic, but sensitive. I listed some of the top inflammatory foods. It does not mean it's inflammatory for you, but that's what we help families and adults, who are in our program understand. Does gluten, make you grouchy? Does dairy make you tired, right? Do eggs, whatever. So I'm personally sensitive to quite a few of these things. So I know it is inflammatory for me, but hopefully it's not for you. But unless you've done an elimination diet, you may not know. So think about what you're feeding yourself. Are you having enough omega-rich foods, which is really key to create and maintain cell membranes? Really good for the brain. There's a lot of research around omega 3s and 6s and how it's good for us. And you can get that naturally through different nuts, seeds, and fish. Protein is another big one. Protein is so instrumental to our processing and functioning in the day because it's the precursor for neurotransmitters. So all that brain juice again. And protein doesn't just come from animals. I think as a society think about protein as animal-based, but there's a lot of plant-based protein as well. So do your research, see again what aligns to your values, your family, meal plans. Add that protein, especially in the morning, to really sustain you for the day, including those complex carbohydrates. We need glucose. We need sugar for our brain to function, okay? So sugar is important, but it's the types of sugars we put in our body that really matters. And there's tons of research showing how refined sugars like white cane sugar and many other sugars really do break down these communication pathways and cells in our body and our brains. So natural sugars like 100% pure maple syrup, honey, molasses, we definitely recommend that, but reduce the total amount per day because there's sugar in everything. But complex carbohydrates like oats, grains, and legumes, they naturally break down over time, right? To again, sustain our energy. The brain, by the way, is only about 3 or so pounds. It's about 2 or 3% of our body weight, but it takes up about 20% of the resources that we feed our body. So it's really important, again, that you feed the brain properly and you don't have those big crashes and sustain that energy throughout the day. And part of that is also consuming those micronutrients, getting plenty of fruits and vegetables to get the vitamins and minerals that, again, your brain and your body needs to be as healthy as possible. All right. All right, moving along, we also want to develop healthy habits with sleep, with how we socialize with the world around us and how mindful we are and how we are able to manage that stress. So sleep, even as an adult, is really important. We all need to get quality sleep and get enough sleep to, again, repair the damage in our body and our brain and process the information from the day. So if you are someone that has trained yourself to be okay and used to getting less sleep, your brain is actually not okay. Sleep deprivation is more harmful and more impairing, really, than if you were inebriated by something like alcohol or drugs. So you need sleep, okay, even as an adult. Think about your bedtime routine. Are you looking at screens as well? Are you winding down? And how are you tapping into your own body, right? Jumping ahead a little bit to number 6, mindfulness. It's key for us to try to not let our brain, think about so many things and, stress us out, honestly, whatever's going on. Bring it in, practice that breath. Mindfulness, by the way, is not the same thing as meditation. I like to emphasize that because meditation is a a different skill. It definitely involves mindfulness, but mindfulness is just simply being present. And one of the most accessible ways to be mindful and practice being mindful is, again, with your breath, like you did earlier, and then something called tap into your senses, which I'll work on next with you. But then there's socialization. How we connect to the world around us and our community is really important. And as we age, especially if you don't have family around or you never had children, you know, those who have less quality relationships in their lives tend to degrade cognitively, both brain and body, right? Because it's all connected, more than if someone had a rich community of folks that they can visit and chat with and, you know, learn from and enjoy life with. So something as simple as walking by and saying hi to a stranger or smiling at a stranger can trigger these positive neurons in your brain, as opposed to just ignoring them and walking past. So I challenge you today, if you walk by a stranger today, if you're out of the house, at least some of you may be working from home, the next time you're out of the house, say hi to a stranger or smile at a stranger. Start with that, just smile at a stranger. You too will never be the same again. That will trigger a different neuron in your brain, and it will, again, be this positive impact for you. All right. So we really do make a positive impact, hopefully, in everyone that we come across, including even after this presentation. Your brain will never be the same. All right. So wrapping this up, I want us to practice a little mindfulness again before we sum it up. When you're practicing mindfulness, again, there's so many different ways to do it, whether it's your breath, or what I love to do is tap into your senses, utilize the various senses that you have access to right now. So I'm going to invite you again to take another big breath. And I'm going to have you close your eyes to start off with. And I want you to listen to your surrounding. See if you can identify at least 2 different sounds in your environment. While your eyes are closed and you're listening to your environment, take another big breath in through your nose and see if you smell at least 1 or 2 different things. Or maybe same things, that's okay too, but what do you smell? Next, you can tap your tongue inside your mouth, feel that saliva. What do you taste in your mouth? Do you still have coffee or breakfast? And then go ahead and feel your body or feel the environment around you. You don't even have to move. What are 5 things that you feel right now? Is it the chair you're sitting on, the fabric? Do you feel the backrest pushing up against you? Do you feel a breeze from a fan? Do you feel the warmth of the sun on your skin? Do you feel little butterflies in your stomach? Or is it rumbling from hunger? And whenever you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes and try to find something red in your environment. Maybe try to find something round in your environment. Perhaps there's something that sparks joy. Look around. What sparks joy when you look at it? There's so many ways, again, to be mindful, and many opportunities to be mindful, whether it's being engaged in this presentation, to relaxing as you're getting ready for bed, to eating your meal. Last night I had a great meal, and being present, you know, what am I tasting in my mouth, rather than being so involved in a conversation with who you're with, you know, having a nice meal with. Take that moment to appreciate what you're fueling your body with, right? And what you're eating, the textures, right? When you're brushing your teeth, how does the bristles feel against your gums? How does the toothpaste feel? How is your body feeling as you lean against the counter, right? Being mindful is definitely a practice. And the research shows even just 1 minute a day, 1 minute a day can positively change your brain for the better. So I also challenge you not only to think about ways that you can move your body and engage your senses and saying hi or smiling at a stranger, but I also challenge you to find moments throughout your day where you can bring your brain and your body to present, space and take in the world around you. All right. When you're taking that walk, I love to just look at the breeze through the trees rather than letting my mind wander, on a hike or walk. I really try to be present and feel and smell and sense all the world around us. Okay. So it's a practice, right? 1 minute a day, it's all you need, at least to start. Okay. So what if you've already done all of this? Maybe you have healthy practices and healthy habits, but you still are interested in more, or you're needing perhaps more help. One thing that's interesting is Harvard Medical School identified 6 cornerstones to any effective brain health and cognitive fitness program. And it's fascinating. It's a lot of what we talked about today, right? The pillars of brain health. You need to exercise. The program needs to include some kind of exercise, include a healthy diet, include sleep and stress management, social interaction, and mental stimulation, right? Exercise that brain. I think that's wonderful because hopefully you're not surprised, right? The Brain Balance program supports that, right? We, before even having seen this study, already have the secret sauce. We incorporate this multi-sensory, multimodal approach that's personalized to each individual, where it is just the perfect amount of load and challenge, all right? And it's tailored to each person. We give you the opportunity to socialize, to have your one-on-one coach, to meet, different goals, include nutrition, and really help keep you accountable to reach those goals through that unique approach. We do it in center, we do it hybrid, or we can do it virtually. It doesn't matter where you are. So if we have anybody that is international, because I think we have at least one person right now that's international, or if you know someone that's across the nation, we work with it all. We have served over 60,000 people in over 15 years now. And our center in Greater San Diego alone has served hundreds and quite a few international families and adults as well. So the combination of the science, the movement, the neurotech, right, the cognitive training and performance apps has led us to have some pretty great testimonials. I myself, that's me in the top left corner, very proud of myself. That's the first time I was able to train my body to improve in this core strength. But you can see everybody here enjoying themselves. They are wearing the different sensor gear and they're engaging in all these different unique activities that are foundational, again, to our processing and functioning. So rather than playing just puzzles, right, to improve some of the problem solving, we incorporate much more to help you get better at those puzzles and challenge you to do other things that help you improve memory and executive functioning, overall cognition. And it's all in less than an hour a day. So the Brain Balance program, in just a matter of just a few months, our program's a minimum of 3 months, we really see folks really achieve their goals. And that could be things like overcoming anxiety and challenges with trauma. It could be ADHD or undiagnosed, challenges that they've had, since childhood that they want to work on. For myself, it was a lot of auditory processing. As I got older, I'm noticing I wasn't picking up on everything, but also the gut-brain connection. I've always had a lot of gut challenges growing up throughout my adulthood as well, and it really hasn't been resolved until Brain Balance, which I knew was going to happen. I just, like everyone else, needed a coach too. So if you want to go to our website, actually our YouTube channel at Brain Balance San Diego, please subscribe. You will get access to this video. You can see our adult testimonials and just have other information that you're possibly interested in. It's all free. So subscribe to our channel and learn more and see, what breakthroughs that you can have for yourself. Ultimately, I hope that you are empowered today and more knowledgeable of how you can improve your mental health or brain health, I should say, including your mental health. And it ultimately comes down to these 3 sayings, right? What you do matters, what you eat matters, what you think matters, okay? So exercise your body, exercise your brain, eat well, right? Healthy nutrition, whole, balanced, nutrition. Make sure you have healthy habits of sleep and mindfulness, and, go out and socialize. Make friends, new friends, learn new things, okay? If there are other topics you're interested in, again, our YouTube channel has some of that, but we also do these professional trainings out in the community. I've worked with school districts, professionals, museums, quite a bit of different avenues that folks find me. But essentially what we can support with is different neurodiversity topics or things like this healthy aging and brain health topic for any organization to meet their wellness or educational goals. Okay, so just reach out to me. Stay connected with us, all right? Our phone number and our emails listed there. sandiego@brainbalance.com is the easiest. And then all the social media channels, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, right? Follow us at Brain Balance San Diego. And then we always have free events like this every single month. In fact, later this month, we have another presentation that's free around how environmental factors affect our brain, whether it's disease, viruses, or trauma, right? Big one right now is trauma. So please join us for that one. And I believe that's next week, but you can check our website, bit.ly/BBSD events. It'll take you straight there to learn more, all right? Well, now that we are towards the end, we still have about 10 more minutes. I would love, before we jump into questions, what are some of your aha moments? If you have to go ahead and head off, but let me know before you go, what are your ahas? What did you learn that's new? What was a good reminder for you? Or what are you going to do now that you've learned, some additional pillars for brain health? What are your ahas? And once you do that, please, of course, ask your questions as well. So I'll check that chat box. I see lots of valuable information. You'll need to rewatch this, totally fine. That's why we recorded it. Socialize, thanks, Sylvia. Yeah, socialize more. Karen wishes she can get the recommended sleep. Everyone needs a different amount of sleep too, by the way. And if you already know you need more, let's talk about it. How do we help you build those healthy habits, right? Healthy habits are not easy to do. We default with habits that seem easier, but aren't necessarily. So we'll talk about when we follow up with you, how we can support you. All right. Well, any questions? I see one more. Importance of making these major habits and how they are related. Yeah, everything is connected. Everything's related. What we're eating at night, how it affects our sleep, what we're doing throughout the day, did we exercise, right? Mental health, everything's connected. Remember that. Everything's connected. And if we want to improve our brain health, you have to have that sensory engagement, that motor movement, right? In addition to that consistency, the right amount of load and challenge, right? There's so many pieces that need to come together for us to feel and be our best. And not perfect, but be and feel our best and continue improving our overall health. If you want to remember information more, there's a lot of people that wrote that they want to improve memory. Include a more multi-sensory approach in your everyday life, right? Give yourself that sensory engagement, keep your brain active. It's not just a matter of practice or writing, tools and coping mechanisms like writing, things on a Post-it or putting things in a calendar. It's about getting to the root cause, what's happening in the brain, what's not connecting, right? All right. Well, it looks like there aren't any other questions. I'm going to stop the recording and we can keep chatting if you'd like. And if you'd like to turn on your camera, that's totally fine too.